Have you heard about this ex-Major League Baseball player that's on trial right now for homicide? What's up, guys? It's Greeny. Welcome to the Scumbag Report, the place where I discuss all things scummy. Well, this case is crazy. It's crazy. And actually, the trial is going on right now. I've been following this case for a while, and as of today, as of me filming this right now, the jury is still out on deliberations. And I have a feeling that I'm going to put this video out. It's going to be out in the morning, and sometime today, the jury is going to come back with their decision. And I'll tell you at the end what I think the decision is going to be, but let me give you some background about this. This is one of the crazier stories I've ever heard. This guy, Danny Serafini, was a Major League Baseball player, played for a bunch of teams. He pretty much sucked. I mean, his ERA, which is earned run average per game, was like over 6. He didn't have a good record. He didn't have a lot of strikeouts. I mean, journeyman type player, not a good baseball player as far as for Major League standards. Obviously better than most because he played in the Major Leagues. He also played in Taiwan and I think Japan. So anyways, his career comes to an end. He earned about $14 million playing baseball. Well, once his career was over, he came up with the bright idea that he would open a bar. I mean, what do ex-athletes do? Open bars? I don't know. A lot of them lend their name to other people opening a bar. This guy wanted to open his own bar. Did he have any experience in it? Probably not. And I think he pretty much sucked at that, just like he sucked at being a pitcher in the major leagues. So he had this bar, and at some point in time, the dude was big time in debt. He owed a bunch of money for the bar. He was in debt. He had to borrow money from his parents when he actually opened the bar because he was so in debt. I mean, apparently this guy was just as bad with his finances as he was at running a bar and being a pitcher. He owed his parents a ton of money because they had lent him money to open the bar. Well, at some point in time, he was actually on the TV show Bar Rescue. They helped him out quite a bit, according to the show. They actually renamed the bar, and actually it was supposedly doing pretty good after the fact. It was crazy. Some of the video from Bar Rescue shows him as kind of a hothead. You know, there's one scene where he looks like he's really pissed off.
I go from being super nice to snapping.
And another odd thing I saw reviewing some of this coverage is 2 of the chicks that he had working in the bar that were like drinking a lot of his profits, they actually lived with him and his wife. Yeah, he had a wife, Erin. She allowed these other 2 chicks to be living with them in their house.
Dan hired trusted family friends Winter and Tara, who also live with Dan and his wife.
You guys sure are bubbly this morning.
Kind of come as a package deal. We live together, we work together, finish each other's sandwiches.
Which, as you'll find out later in the video, there's probably a lot of weird stuff going on. I mean, sounds like it was an open marriage. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Apparently, during all this time, Danny and his wife, Erin, had a little contentious relationship with Erin's parents, who, on their own right, had a lot of money. And apparently, they were a little bit better with money than Danny and Erin. There's a quote in some of the stuff I read that they had cut Erin off 30 times since she was 18 years old, which is kind of weird to me. Like, if you're over 18, why are you relying on your parents? And you got married to some dude that used to be a Major League Baseball pitcher that sounds like they're complete losers. I mean, just scum of the earth, in my opinion. You know, this is just my opinion based on the information I have at hand. Criminal litigation, civil litigation, we're going to get to all this. This is just a wild story. So let's go back to what happened. June 5th, 2021, Erin's parents, that's Danny's wife, Danny's in-laws, Robert Spohr and Wendy Woods, were unalived. Actually, that's what the suspect thought, because Wendy actually ended up pulling through. She was hit twice in the head, once in the hand, and she went through rehabilitation, probably had some brain damage, couldn't remember anything about what happened. And she was alive for a while until she took her own life. I think it was about 14 months later. And there was some video I saw of her in rehabilitation. Looked like she was in pretty rough shape. Robert, he was executed, and he did not make it. He was actually, according to the description of the crime scene, sitting on a couch relaxing with his legs up on like a coffee table or something like that, you know, so totally ambushed. The police obtained surveillance footage of a man in a black hoodie, masked, about 6'3", entering the house and then leaving again later. That's all the evidence they had at the time, back in 2021. And it kind of turned into a cold case. Like, nobody heard anything about this for a while. Until 2023, there was a civil lawsuit, civil litigation, and it was Erin versus her sister, Adrian. Wendy and Robert's daughter, Adrian, sued Erin and Danny, saying that they committed the crime, that they did it to get money from the parents. And there was a countersuit, Erin against Adrian, saying that Adrian, before her mother took her own life, convinced her to take them out of the will or take them out of the trust, however it was. So this civil litigation is still ongoing to this point. It's never been resolved, but for whatever reason, that kind of sparked the investigation. And at some point, Danny and a woman named Samantha were arrested. Samantha Scott. She was actually the family's nanny and Erin's best friend. To make matters worse, it came out later that Erin and Danny were lovers. And they all lived together. It sounds like they all lived together in the house. Erin, Danny, and Samantha. Hope I'm not making this too confusing. But anyways, the police charged them and they obtained evidence. I wasn't able to obtain all the details of the investigation, but what I think ended up happening was the police suspected Erin and Danny all along. They found out about the Samantha that was living with them too. And what happens a lot in these cases is the cell phone is what does these criminals in. Well, the police were able to ping Erin and Danny's cell phones near the murder scene that day. They found out that the two of them were in that area, and then they left that area. And it was very uncommon. They looked at all the other patterns on the cell phone, and they were like never in that area before, except for that day of the murder. And the day of the murder, Erin was at the house earlier in the day with her two kids out boating with her parents. She left later. Whoever the suspect was, allegedly Danny, lied in wait and jumped out, bam, bam, took off, and tried to leave it like it was a robbery or something like that, obviously. Well, the police never charged Erin. Apparently there was, she went there that day. There's no pinging on her cell phone because she was there. There was nothing to convince the police or the prosecutors that she was involved in it, even though to me it sounds pretty bad. And obviously to her sister, who is litigating her in civil court, she believes that she's responsible. So at some point in time, the police get this Samantha to roll on Danny. They obviously promised her, listen, we'll go easy on you. You need to testify against this guy. And then she admits to what happened, allegedly. So her story and what she just testified in the trial is that day she drove Danny to the area near where his in-laws lived, let him out of the car. He took off. He was dressed in black. He had a black backpack with him. And several hours later, she hooked back up with him and drove him back. And while they were driving back, she claims that she didn't look, but she could hear noises like he was taking apart a gun. And next thing she knew, as they're driving down through like the desert, he's throwing parts of the gun out the window at different times. Then he threw some other contents of his bag out. Then they pulled over somewhere and he got rid of some clothes or something. So, obviously it looks really bad. At this time for the trial, the police have no physical evidence. This is all circumstantial, so it's basically her word against his. She ended up pleading guilty months ago to an accessory after the fact. And I think maybe she's getting like 3 years in jail, 3 years in prison, something like that. But, she's testifying against Danny. And like I said, Erin's never been charged in the case. The only court proceedings against her is the civil case, which her sister is bringing. But this case has been wild. So check it out today. Go online and see what happens. After 2-3 days of jury deliberation, a lot of cases it's going to be a hung jury, and then the prosecution is going to have to decide, do we just let it go or do we have another trial and do it again? That's what I think is going to happen. Who knows? They could find him guilty. They could find him not guilty. And as you guys know, like the OJ case, sometimes somebody could have committed the crime, but they're found not guilty because there's just not a lot of evidence. And in this case, whether allegedly Danny did it, allegedly, Aaron, who was in charge, allegedly Samantha, sometimes it's hard to prove a case, which is unfortunate. And I don't know how well the investigation was done. I don't know if the ball was ever dropped, or these people were just, that smooth that they got away with it. Obviously the guy was wearing gloves and disposed of the weapons, and the weapons were never found if he did it. Allegedly. Everything is alleged. But super interesting case. Okay, let me get back to the open marriage part, because it's just kind of interesting to me. It just adds another scummy factor to the whole thing. Aaron testified during the trial on Danny's behalf, it kind of sounds like, because she said the guy in the video dressed in black that went in the house, she goes, oh, that doesn't look anything like Danny. That's not how he walks, And Danny's defense attorney testified, oh, that can't be Danny. Danny's 6'3". That guy's only 6'2" in the video. I mean, come on. Kind of comical. But Aaron admitted that she knew that Danny and Samantha were having an affair, that they were, well, not having an affair, but they were sexually active. And she didn't care. She's like, cool with me. And, I can only imagine what Danny was doing with the girls that lived at the house that worked at the bar as well, way back when. But as far as I could understand from the testimony of his wife, like, she's standing by her man. That's what they do sometimes. And in this case, I don't know. It just, everybody, they even though she wasn't charged, she really, in my opinion, smells dirty. Who knows? Who knows? Everything's alleged. Like I said, the civil case is just alleged. But anyway, so follow the case. Check it out. Maybe a decision today. I'll probably report back. Maybe I'll do a short video when a decision's made and let you guys know what happened. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Greenie out.